All right, today's Wednesday, September 20th. Kind of a lot happened overnight this morning. Um, yeah, natural gas, crude oil, finally triggering, which, sucks, our 89.18 that we had marked did hit overnight. I mean, and if you look, it's amazing. It didn't quite make it. I mean, we had it marked a little bit higher. Would have been an R3 or an S3 today. Bounced off it overnight. Obviously I was sleeping. I didn't have anything on, but nonetheless, it did trigger, and a lot of our alerts are now gone. We have some lower ones, but most of the alerts in this band that they've all kind of fired off. Now, I took a beating yesterday. Well, I shouldn't say it's not a beating, but I ended up hitting my loss limit on my futures trading. I ended up being down about 225, maybe even closer to 230. I have to look at my account, with commissions and everything else. But I could not make a shoe stink yesterday. I took every trade that I had set up, and what I thought was actually really weird is they all kind of worked. It was my stupid stop strategy that really kind of screwed me over. I have this trailing stop thing that I tried out, and it was working for a while. And yesterday, it just every time it trailed, it literally it trails up, even though it's actually below my entry. It trails up, and literally every time it happened, it literally washed back down, took my stop out, and went the other way. Now, why I decided to do that, I have no idea. I mean, I always try different things from time to time, and I always wind up going back to what actually works. So really, it was more on me than it was anything else. I mean, I was just an idiot. And I did a couple of trades on crude. I did a couple. Actually, the trades that I did on the ES were the ones that actually worked. It was the ones on crude that didn't work. And so, yeah, so I pretty much packed it in after that, and then that was that. So not a good day on that front. So let's get into some of the index. Since I got crude up, let's talk about crude, and let's get into it, and let's see if we have anything that's worth trading. Kind of sucks that we bounced off that S3. It kind of sucks. Kind of puts a damper in a lot of things because now you really don't have anything to the downside to do. I mean, you could try right above it. You see that high volume node right there, right above it. That is more than likely what we bounced off of this morning. Now, usually a second touch on that in a day is not a very high probability trade, because if they actually look to, breach it a second time, chances are there won't be that bounce that we normally get. So I'm actually going to put it there. It is an R and is an S. It is an S3. I'm going to call it an S3. It's technically not. But it is an S3. It's close enough. And today, I think today is like the first day of fall or something, right? It's cold as shit out, to tell you that. At least where I am. I was cold. And it's really not that cold out yet, but damn. Can't say I'm going to complain about it, though. I'd much rather this than that fucking sticky, humid, garbage heat. So that's kind of That on crude oil. And what also looks a little interesting too, and I don't usually take this trade, is the pivot. The pivot at 91. Is that pivot at 91.10? Pivot at 91.10. We're going to mark that up. I don't usually take a pivot trade, but the fact that there's a high volume node there is interesting. Okay. All right. And so that is kind of it. I don't know if an S1 is very viable today. Really, again, if you look at profile, there's really nothing there. And then we start getting up into the stratosphere up here, up in the 90s, and then that becomes tough. If I actually pop over to here, and then I'm going to go into the profile here, and this is an interesting chart. What this is this is actually this is what I've created here is a mess. No, what I've created here was a chart setup that only takes the point of control from the previous days. And you can see that's what these big, long orange lines, and it extends them. So wherever they are, it extends them to the right so that you can see where they align. And they tend to be pretty, again, it's something just to consider. When they align, and most oftentimes they do, when they align with a high volume node, they are pretty good high probability reversal trades. So anywho, let's just see if any of these, and it looks like all my lines kind of line up, which is kind of scary. We also have one here. It looks like at about 87.04. It's kind of out of range. We don't have much up here, up top. Again, it's a shorter's market in here only because of where we've come and gone over the last few weeks here in crude. Everyone's calling for $100 crude. I think with that being the case and everybody calling for $100 crude, I don't think we get there. Is there any way to hide the alerts on here? There's got to be a way. Regular lines, blah, 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 regular percent invert. I don't know. I thought maybe there would be a radio button or something that you just hit to get rid of. Because I don't like having all these lines on my screen. It looks like a fucking mess. I look like one of these fucking wonkos. And it looks, I know when you're watching, it looks too busy. It's like, oh man, what are you doing? But anyway, it is what it is. And that's kind of what's going on in crude. So we got a couple of spots. Again, 91.09. To the bottom here, 89.11. If indeed we do get there. And that's pretty much it. Also you have another point of control. You have a POC here at 91.26. And again, this is a rough area to trade only because you just don't have much. You just don't have much history, right? And then here you're picking tops, and that's usually when you get. And that's what I tried to do yesterday. I was trying to pick the top, and I was kind of getting buried a little bit. Although a couple of them worked to the downside, and it was a pretty good sell-off. That's where I got slammed. All right, now let's pop over to the ES. Let's look at the ES real quick. And that's it on crude. Boy, was that some whacked out. That was a pretty shitty analysis, right? But hey, what do you get for nothing, man? We have an S2 that lines up from yesteryear, 44.56. That doesn't look like a bad spot today. We have R2 at 45.16. 45.16. We have a long-term point of control here at 45.14. That might not be a bad spot today. That may not be a bad spot today. Now, I don't know what's going on. I have to look at the calendar. There may be some stuff going on today on the calendar that may give us a catalyst. Is today the FOMC minutes? Isn't today FOMC? I think it might be. I think it might be. I think it might be at FOMC. So that this might go off the table then if this is if it is. And so got a spot there which is an R2. R3 not really aligning. I mean, there's a little bit of a volume hole there. We do have a pretty big band of red delta there. But this is the spot where we ran through pretty quick yesterday, or a couple of days ago. It was a couple of days ago. We ran through there pretty quickly yesterday. We didn't really garner any real areas. I mean, there's a couple of high volume nodes in here. Let's see what it looks like on the profile. See if anything aligns. We do have 45.53. That's a big move. 45.53. We have another one here at 45.25. And another one here at 45.38. I don't really, I mean, this one doesn't look bad. 45.24. 45.24. And I'll show you real quick. I know a couple people have asked, like, how do you trade these? So what you do is the thing is with these type of, when you're pointing out these levels, you're not looking for these banging big bust out trades. If you're using the micros, that's fine. And it doesn't matter whether you're using the micro or what does matter is that you do need to have, so if you're using a micro, I usually use about a 12 tick stop. So I'm risking like $12.50 per contract. So I might do 3. That's usually what I do with the micros. So $12.50. I'm risking like $38, $36. It's like nothing. It's like really nothing that I'm risking. And when I do a big boy contract, I'll usually use a 6 tick stop. That's just the way I operate. And it is what it is. I mean, that's just what I do. And so that's how you trade them. And then you're looking for anywhere. The way I have it set up is I have a trade set up that's called a bracket order that's called the quickie. And really what it is on the big contracts, like a 6 tick stop. And I'm looking for 10 ticks to the upside. And that's it. It goes in that way. And if it goes and I make money off it, that's it. I'm done. Have a nice day. I'm not looking for a runner. I'm just looking for that bounce. That's it. That's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for that bounce off this level with every intention that most likely, even if it bounces off that level, if it's trending down, it may continue to trend down after that bounce. Same thing with the micros. So it's a 12 tick stop, and I'm usually looking for about 25 ticks to the upside, which equals out to about the same. Whether it's the micro or it's the other, that's it. And that's how you trade those. So don't look for these big runners. And if it happens to keep running, then maybe trail your stop up. Like I didn't do yesterday. Like I tried to automate it, and I automated myself out of a trade. So that's it on the ES. I do think it is. Let me look at the calendar. I do think it is FOMC day. Yeah, it is FOMC. I kind of figured it would be. I don't think there's going to be anything. I don't know. I don't know what to think. And so that's it. I mean, so if these things happen before 2 o'clock, fine. If not, I'm going to pretty much stay out of it. Let's look at and flip over to soybeans. This thing has just been such a disappointment. I mean, look at the sell-off that it had yesterday. Pretty bad. It's been a disappointment for me. It really has. I mean, I really have to say, I mean, I've really played this one bad. I played it bad. You're the first one to admit it. I have nothing to hide. I really expected it to be much more bullish than this, especially with the yields and everything that I've seen. And we have been stuck. I mean, you can't really get stuck in a range more than we are stuck right now. I mean, it's just pretty bad. I mean, look at this. It's terrible. Look at it. It's literally just like stuck in this spot. Change the color to like a yellow. But we're stuck. And, there's nothing. We're kind of just ping-ponging around. And I haven't even been able to play the ping-ponging. So, and there you have it. And then last but not least, we'll move over to natural gas. And natural gas did break out of, we had that wedge form. It was a natural wedge. And it did break out of that yesterday. We're back in it. Was kind of looking for this to become support, and it did not on natural gas. So it did not, and so what does that mean? I don't know what the fuck it means. It just means it didn't become support. Is what it means. I mean, you could try and analyze it. I could probably try and wrap some Investopedia garbage around it or some technical bullshit. If I was selling a trade service, but I'm not selling a trade service, so I really don't know what the fuck it means. It just means it didn't use my line as support. That's all it means. I still think natural gas, you still remain bullish on natural gas here going forward next month or two. And, yeah. So that's it. And then as far as like big tech, big tech kind of taking a little bit of I don't call it a whooping, but some of these like real high growth names have really stalled, like for the likes of like a Datadog. Now, if you look at this is, you can't get more head and shoulders than this thing. I mean, this is like a classic head and shoulders pattern, and I was actually in some strangles in this, and I finally got rid of it. I think I've had it since the summer. I think I had like since June or even May. I think it was May earnings. It was either April or May earnings. I had strangle, and I rolled it a bunch of times, and I finally dumped it yesterday. And from being down, like, again, I mean, not a hero at all, but from being down like literally $1,200 from May with rolling and doing all this other stuff and all the other strategies and whatnot, ended up only losing 300 and something bucks. So to me, that was like a big win because, look, I stuck to my guns. I kind of was mechanical. In fact, I was very mechanical, rolling puts up, rolling calls down, and just playing that time game. And, eventually it didn't turn out to be a winner. Didn't expect it to, but I managed to eat away at that loss. And, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't manage it. And, sometimes taking a loss is actually a win. And in this case, this is where a loss, to me, became a win because I was able to fight back and get some of that money back over time. So anyway, I'm finally now flat this stock completely. And and the reason I'm even bringing this up is if this thing does, in fact, get back down into this area here, I really like this in this spot. Not that spot. This spot right here. I really like this. And I'm going to make this green. And that is about 64 bucks. That is about 64 bucks. I'm going to turn this green. Nice bright green. And that did not fill. Why didn't that fill green? Oh, because it's this one? I don't know. What the freak? There you go. I like this around this number, and I'm actually going to put an alert in here on Datadog. It looks like it's around 64.37. Now I know it's a ways away. It's at 90, but given the way the market has been going, I mean, and especially with these bigger growth tech stocks, nothing to me is out of the question that this thing can drop $30 and go back to where it was. Now, I always put dates in because, always put dates in on your alerts so you kind of know. And then always make notes. Like here, it's kind of the bottom of a head and shoulders pattern. I mean, stupid stuff like that. Now, again, I don't trade these entirely too much. There's looks like there's good support here as well, but I'm not going to write all that in here. So, I mean, make yourself some notes and then, go. There you go. And so that's really it. Now, I wouldn't touch this stock. You do kind of have a bit of a bull flag, right? Isn't that kind of a bull flag? I don't know, you technical guys out there, anybody, guys and gals, can't be so chauvinistic all the time. There's a lot of women trading right now. So, I got to be open-hearted, open-minded with them. And, sorry, guys, they're usually better at this than us. I don't know. I think it's because I don't know. Maybe this will sound a little bad, but I think it's because they're just better. They're just better at dealing with adversity with money. Where I think most guys, we all just we get like. I mean, to me, I get sick to my. It's funny. I go to the store and I go grocery shopping. I come home. I'm nauseous for like 2 hours after I go grocery shopping. And I don't go very often. And it's just, I don't know. Anytime I spend money and I see it, I get sick to my stomach. My wife, she comes home, she spends 400 or 500 dollars. She looks normal. She's fine. And I think that's kind of translates into, this, when they do this stuff, it's the same thing. I wish I could get that way. So anyway, there's Datadog. I've been watching Amazon and, I'm a little on the fence with Amazon here. Only because, it looks really, surprisingly, it looks very strong. And if you look at it and you actually, dial out, and this is a 4 hour, you notice I'm looking at 4 hour charts on stocks. It's kind of back in the middle of where it was. And this is kind of why I'm kind of on the fence with yet getting long, because look, it's trying to get long Amazon here and then seeing what's going on out in the real world with the economy and personal spending and all that other stuff. And regardless of what they're trying to tell you on the news, look, folks, I talk to people. Not that I know all these people, but, in general, even people who talk to anybody who's a restaurant owner or runs a bar, they'll tell you that this was probably one of the worst summers that they've had in quite a long time. And not worse like from a revenue, but worse that usually that's their busy time and they're just not seeing it. They just did not see it. Foot traffic was way down. There wasn't a lot of people out. And when people were out, they were spending. It's not like there weren't people out. And it's not like they're in dire straits over it. There's a lot of, hopefully, a lot of these restaurateurs that have been around for a decent amount of time, they know how to play the cycle. And so, but, they've seen it firsthand right now. And I have to believe it's going to translate into some consumer ended stuff. So that's kind of why I'm on the fence with Amazon here. And I wish it had better volatility. There's nothing. It sucks. 6.1. How the fuck do you trade this? I don't know. I don't know. And you can see we're doing okay in our small account this year. So I thought about maybe doing, I kind of thought about a strangle. My problem with Amazon right now and then getting short premium with the volatility so low is I can get run over pretty freaking quick in here if I sell premium. And that's kind of why I've been a little reluctant to sell premium in general, because if volatility, and let's face it, if we look at the VIX, let's go back to the VIX. The VIX has actually creeped up yesterday a bit. It was actually in low 15. It got up to 16, I think, yesterday, didn't it? I think it did. Let's put up the VIX real quick. The VIX, until we get up, we got a long way to go. I mean, here's like where we've been even from August. We have not been near the 20s. But my fear is if we get any push in volatility in the market, I'm going to get run the F over on anything that's got short premium. And these are the mistakes I've made from years ago, folks. And look, I appreciate everything they do on Tasty Trade, and like I've learned a lot of stuff. But was the one thing I've learned over the years is that it's never always a good time to just sell premium because that's what you do. Be really, really careful about selling options when volatility is relatively low. And I mean that because I'm a first case example of years ago. I stuck to this strategy and I got fucking railroad. Now I'm not blaming anybody. Believe me, I'm not blaming them. I'm a big grown up now. I take full responsibility because I should have known better. Because the reason we sell volatility is when IV rank is high, volatility is high. We sell volatility with the idea that volatility over time collapses. And so if it's low, why would I sell volatility? Why would I sell options? It just doesn't make any sense. So just be really careful. That's all. Be really careful. And if you do decide to sell options, do it short term. Don't do it out in time because then you'll really get wrecked. And so that's kind of why I'm on the fence with Amazon. I would like to get into a long trade. I just don't know what to do. The only thing I can really think of would be some kind of calendar spread and maybe like a November. We're at 138. I'd want to be I definitely want to be in the money. So, normally with a calendar spread, I kind of like to be around between this area here. Where's my pen tool? I don't have my pen tool. And I know I'm babbling a little bit here, but bear with me because I didn't have my coffee. I didn't have all my coffee this morning. And I'm kind of winging it here because I didn't do any research or anything. Because usually I prepare myself a little bit the night before, but I didn't because that's what I do because I'm a schmuck. But I usually stick within this area here from about 70. I don't go 80 because the 80 is usually too much. But usually as far as delta is concerned, I usually like to have about 70. The wheelhouse is probably right in here. And I'm kind of looking at that 35. I kind of like that 35, that 135 strike. So if I did the 135, that would mean I'd buy the 135 and then sell the October 135. Now, it's not cheap, $300. Let's take a look at the curve. You do have a decent band in there. Again, you're not going to make a ton of money off this. You have downside. The one thing about the calendar spreads is you kind of have some leeway on both sides. So I'm good as far as down to almost 128 and up to about 143. So I have a pretty good band in there. I kind of like that trade. I kind of like it right now. If I want to roll, I can roll. I have 30 days. I can roll my short call if need be. I do got to be careful about the wash sale bullshit, which, you might want to bang this out to December, August, or December, November, so you can get away from that wash sale. Now that I think about it, that just triggered in my head. So you're probably better off with the November Dece rather than the October, because if you have to roll that call, and the reason why I say that, nobody ever talks about that. Look, I'm not a tax person, but if you roll this call less than 30 days at a loss, guess what? It's going to be a wash sale. And then you buy something else, they're going to wash the. It's going to be a wash. They're going to wash it. They're going to wash sale you. Douchebags, right? I mean, it's like the IRS. So there you have it. So actually the Dece Nova is probably better. It's only 150. And I'm actually going to put that one on today. Kind of like that one. And getting long a little Amazon, maybe against the grain even. Because look, I get it. It's really hard to get long anything here, but I don't really have too many positions on an Amazon. So I kind of like it there. And I do see some decent support around 128. So that's kind of the bottom of where my trade starts losing money. Let's see what else did I look at that looked interesting? Like, was it one of these? It wasn't Nvidia. I mean, I'm kind of staying away from that. As much as I would love to short this, I just feel like I'd get my face torn apart. I mean, because I really think if this thing does break down here, especially where you got this big wick, this big long run, it starts breaking down here, which it does kind of look like it is finally maybe coming back into reality. If and when it does, I think it's going to be a bloodbath. It really is going to be an absolute bloodbath. How would I play that? I probably would do it again. No volatility in here at all. 8-5. I mean, what are you going to do? The only thing you can really do in here is maybe play long ball and maybe like go out. I would even go out to December, and I'd actually take a shot on some 400 puts. Do like a 400, 395, $180. And if it does decide to, collapse down there, now I'm not really a fan of this type of trade only because it's out of the money, but I don't see how else you play it, seeing that the volatility's really low. And if you want to play it to the downside, there's not much else you can do. I mean, if you want to go and buy a put for $2,000, go ahead. That just seems lunacy to me. Again, you're not selling calls because the volatility sucks. So I kind of like that trade in Nvidia to the downside. Okay, and I'm not spending a ton of money. And I'm out in December, so I'm really giving myself some room. All right, and so there's another one for you, Nvidia, little put spread. Because I do think this thing is eventually going to blow its brains out. Just when, right? And I'd rather give it more time. Outside of that, that's it. I mean, and again, I'm sticking to the big stocks here, folks. I'm not chasing any of this small garbage for the most part. I mean, because I look on here, and here's my list. Here's the high option volume. And this is the list I always work off of. And when I see all this garbage on here, and this is all garbage, let's face it, most of the stuff on here is absolute freaking trash. I usually stay the hell out. Now I see J&J is on here. Think they have earnings coming up, and that is why. Yeah, I mean they have earnings coming up in October, so that is why it's on here. None of these look remotely interesting. at all. And then, all right, let's flip and go to earnings. Let's go to earnings. And I think FedEx is after the bell. I did not do, we talked about this one yesterday. I did not do anything in General Mills. I don't even know if they reported yet. I haven't even looked. It's only 7:54. They may have. I haven't even looked. FedEx, I'm definitely going to do something. It's after the bell today. Volatility is at about 40. That's not bad. I don't know if I'm going to do in October. We'll look at in November first, because I think in October, again, I want to give myself some room. It's right at 30 days, so that's not really a great, because you always got to be looking one trade ahead is what I always try and do. And if I have to roll this, I don't know if I'd be able to roll this with being at 30 days, right? And then again, the whole wash sale and all that other shit. Problem with November with FedEx, there's like no open interest out here at all. I mean, look at this. No open interest. It's dead. It's like a no man's land out here. And the other side of it is that in November, they're all $10 wide, which kind of sucks. But they have 2.5 wide, and there's tons of, so I guess I'm going to stick with October, unfortunately. And if I get myself into a tax situation, I get it into a tax situation. So they're looking at a $16 move in FedEx. Right? So $16 move in October. One standard deviation brings us out to 225. And then one standard deviation to the other side brings us out to 275. So that is, and not much open interest though on that one. 225 has pretty decent open interest. Yes, no, nobody is out there at all. Everyone looks like, and look, this is where you kind of look for some footprints. A lot of people playing the 220 and the 210 and the 230 and the 230. So pretty interesting there. So the one standard deviation doesn't really have much liquidity, and neither does the 275. So that's an issue for me anyway. I would probably do the 270, 275 up here, because this has decent liquidity. It's $5 wide. And that is alarming to me. That's a little alarming that I would have to do the 230. I would have to do the 230, 225. So that is not a bad iron condor. I'm going to have to do an iron condor because I don't want to use no $2,500 worth of buying power, at least in this account. And that is kind of the trade I think you have to do in FedEx. And so you're right on the bubble. You know, you are playing the move exactly almost to the letter. You are literally at the move, and you're in both cases, your outside strike is outside the one standard deviation move, which is again not that bad. Only 65% probability of profit. I would try to do this one for 145 today if you could. We'll see what happens. Yeah. I don't even know if I'd be able to even put this in. It'd probably tell me the market's not open. But I like this one for earnings, and that's really it. I'll close on that one. I'll actually even take a picture of this one. Yeah, and I'll close on that. And so an iron condor for FedEx for earnings. I ain't going to do Darden or any of these other ones. Maybe Costco next week, but that's kind of it. So there you have it. That's the show. And went 40 minutes, babbled a bit, and talked about some stocks. And happy FOMC decision day. All right, have a good one, and I'll